E360 TV proudly presents messages of inspirational stories. Live streaming now to millions of devices, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, Android TV, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, with your host, Donna and Jim, producer and host, Jim Grant, producer and host, along with Michaela Vidal, administrator and host, and Gaia Ginwa Balconi Wada, editor-in-chief.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Messages of Inspirational Stories. Today it's Friday, and it's all about women in leadership. And have we got some amazing women to talk about today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Donna was so nice to me. She said, since it's Friday and women in leadership, I'm still going to let you talk a little bit. So I really appreciate that.
Right. You're welcome, Jim. But before we get into all that, pardon me, folks, Jim and I would like to encourage each and every one of you to email us right here at our show, inspiration@e360tv, and our staff will get it to us. We would love to give either yourself or somebody you want to give a shout out to. Mm-hmm. So, we are so excited about doing that. And I know, what? I want to give a shout out today to, and this is going to be, not only here locally, but everywhere. I would love to shout out all the retail workers, right? The retail workers really have to put up with sometimes a lot of unpleasant people. Yeah. And they have to keep a smile on their face. Mm-hmm. And so, you know what? Hats off to everybody who works retail.
Amen. I got to second that, because one of the things that I like to do, people that know me well know that there's a debate. They either say I got a great sense of humor, some say I got a lack of sense, but the jury's still out on that one there. But
it depends on the day, Jim.
That's right. The time of day too. But sometimes I walk into a retail place and a young person's there, getting ready to check me out or whatever. And they tell me the amount, and I'll look at them, I'll say, do you accept out-of-state cash? And sometimes they'll look at me like I'm weird or something. And a lot of times they crack up laughing, because that's the thing I want to do. I may be the only person that comes through their line during their shift that may put a smile on their face.
Right. And we don't know what kind of day people are having. And that is so big for me. You know what? The one thing that I can do that does not cost a dime, but that will help somebody, is give people a smile. And, a thank you. That's huge. That goes a long way.
Yeah. And I'm going to show my age and my ignorance now, because I've never liked the word or the phrase, no problem. And I think, I like to hear when someone says, thank you, you're welcome. Mm-hmm. I prefer that. And that's just me personally. And if someone says thank you to me for something I did, I said, you're more than welcome. My pleasure. Something like that. It sounds so much more personable than, no problem. It's kind of like, well, I wouldn't do anything else, But in my shout out today, I want to give a shout out to Dr. William Gray. He is my cardiologist with the Baylor Scott and White Hospital over in what's that town again there?
Was it Baylor?
No, not Baylor.
Where'd you go? I don't remember.
College Station.
There we go.
Over there.
I don't live there, Jim. What the heck?
I told her I was in the hospital there. See, I just wanted to see, if she knew, if she remembered enough. But anyway, that's been a year ago. I'm teasing her. But also Dr. William Gray, my cardiologist. Thank you so much for the care that you gave me in my hour of need. And also Dr. Charles Smith, the surgeon who performed the open heart surgery on me. And going right along step with the retail people, the nursing staff.
Mm-hmm.
They treated me fantastically there at the Baylor Scott and White Hospital in College Station. And I just want to say a big thank you to all those wonderful people, because nurses sometimes, they get used and abused. I heard it in the hospital there.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and I could not believe it, because these people, they have a very caring heart, and they really care about your health. And what I love about nurses, when they walk into your room, you are really the VIP in their life for that moment.
Right.
And you're the most important person on planet Earth. They're concerned about your needs. They always ask me if I was in pain, if I needed anything or anything like that. And I was always joking with them. And one nurse told me, well, I got ready to leave after being there the whole week. She says, "You're the kind of patient we love to have." She says, I know you're happy about going home. I'm glad you're going home, but I'm going to miss you. And I said, well, next time I have a heart attack, I'll come and see you. But we just want to give a shout out to people like that. And very, very importantly, I'm going to let them know that I gave a shout out to them on this show. And we encourage you just to email us there. If you'd like to give a shout out to somebody, please do
Yes.
so. We will read it we will share it with the audience at the beginning of our show, just like we did this. And that way you can let them know that, hey, I gave you a shout out on international TV.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. So please send us who
Yes.
you want to shout out to at
Mhm.
inspiration at e360tv.com.
Mhm.
And it will get to us by our staff. And Jim and I will be absolutely honored to
Yeah,
do
it will be
yours,
our honor.
to
Yeah,
do
yeah.
your shout out.
It sure would be, because that's what the show is all about. It's about uplifting information and sharing great information. And we got some ladies today that we're going to be talking about here on this show that, oh my goodness.
I'm
Yeah.
excited about this one.
Hmm.
So, I went in and, we women have done so much to change the world and continuously do so.
Hmm.
And we all know that there was a time when women were not valued, shall we put,
Oh yeah.
right? We were not valued for our intelligence. We were merely thought of, being barefoot and pregnant in the kitchen. And, this goes back. This is incredible, this information we have today. This is about 10 different incredible inventions by women, right? So this goes back that single women inventor patents increased from 20.7% back in 2016 in 3 years to 21.9%
Mm.
by the end of 2019. That's quite a jump.
Yes,
So
it is.
right. So we, are really working on this. But let's just talk about this first one.
Hmm.
So I would have never thought any of these in a million years, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Circular saw,
In a
Was
man's
it-
world.
right? Absolutely. My husband used those all the time. It was invented by Tabitha Babbitt
Mm.
in 1812.
Mm.
I mean, 1812.
Wow.
So Babbitt lived in the Shaker community and worked as a weaver.
Mhm.
She noticed that people were having difficulty cutting wood with a pit saw. This type of saw required two people to use it, right? So that's one on each end, okay? And it could only cut the wood in a single direction.
Hmm.
To provide a solution to the problem, she attached a circular blade to a spinning wheel, which resulted in the invention of the circular saw.
Mm. What that story doesn't share with us, I'm kind of interested. Can you imagine she had to go to a blacksmith or someone like that to say, hey, this is what I want and all that. And you imagine because the way men think, especially back then, old school and ignorant, let's be
Right?
honest. Uh, but she may have ran into some opposition or some guy looking at her like, you got to be kidding me. But yet, the key there, she saw a need, she figured it out, and she persevered to make sure it became a reality. Inventing the circular saw, my goodness gracious, because I've seen those guys with, like the lumberjack sawing
Mhm.
back and forth. And I mean, good
And
gracious.
it took a hot minute to get that done.
Yeah. Yeah. You better eat your Wheaties because you're going to need it.
Yeah, and you're going to have some darn sore arms and biceps
Mm,
and shoulders. Your traps are
yeah.
going to hurt.
And when we think of computer, the algorithms and all that, we normally think of a guy that's a nerd wearing glasses or something. I'm not trying to stereotype anybody, but that's basically what comes to my mind. But the inventor, get a load of this. The lady's name is Ada Loveless. Guess what year she invented this?
Right?
It wasn't in the 20th century.
Nope. Wasn't
Eight,
even in the 19th,
yeah,
1900s.
it was in the 19th century or
Yeah.
but 1843.
It wasn't in the
18
1900s. That's what
Yeah,
was shocking for me.
yeah, no kidding. What did they have in 1843? They had horses, guns, Indians, and wars.
Right.
I mean, my goodness. And she added her own notes when translating the lectures of her mathematics professor. Later, she was credited with penning the world's first computer algorithm.
What are the odds?
Oh my goodness gracious. She's going into uncharted water that hasn't even
Right.
been discovered yet.
Exactly. I mean,
She,
that in 1843,
yeah,
we're still talking about horse and buggy.
yeah.
We're still talking about,
No electricity.
no electricity. You're pumping your water with a water pump down at the well.
Yeah.
I mean, everything was so primitive.
Mm.
I mean, in comparison to today.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you think about that and you think about the level of intelligence
Right?
and the concentration that would take, controlled attention to be able to create it and develop it. And then I don't know when she was credited with it, doesn't say, but
No, it doesn't.
she's credited with being the world's first computer algorithm, creating it.
And not only that, but think about how she even came up with that. I mean, this is what freaks me out.
Oh, yeah.
She came up with that in a time and place when mathematics was just pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. We
Hmm.
didn't have quantum physics and
Hmm.
like we do
Yeah.
today, right?
Hmm.
We didn't have that advanced area in our
Hmm.
lives
Right.
back in 1843 versus,
Hmm.
say, even 1943,
Oh, yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
for her to be able to figure this out is absolutely mind-blowing, Jim.
Hmm. What does that say about her level of intelligence?
Off the chart.
And also, this goes along with that. What does that say about her not fitting into the mindset
Right.
of, like Donna said earlier, being barefoot and pregnant? All you're good for is making biscuits and cooking and
And
making
babies.
babies. Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, these women are trailblazers.
Yes, they are. Yes,
And there's a
they
lot of young women today, and women of all ages, can look at these type of women and say, my goodness, they're truly inspirational. They were true trailblazers. They weren't afraid to step outside the norm
Right.
and walk to the beat of their own drum. And that's the kind of people in this world that we respect and we salute,
Right. And still hold your head high.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Still hold your head high. So, all these women that we're talking about today,
Mhm.
folks, are absolutely amazing. But I
Mhm.
I have a real fondness for this next one. I'm not going to lie.
Mhm.
Josephine Cochran,
Hmm.
she invented the dishwasher.
Mm.
And I say that because, I'll wash my pots and pans. I don't run them in the dishwasher, but I hate washing dishes. I'm just going to be honest. I hate it. I always have. So she invented the dishwasher in the year 1872. Wow.
1872. My goodness.
Yes, she came up with the invention to use water pressure instead of scrubbers that were used back then to clean dishes. Although there were other prototypes, Cochrane's design was the most effective one out of all of the others that were out at that time. And so it was her direction and invention in the use of how she used the water pressure and figured out how to get the dishes clean that put her into, if you will, the Hall of Fame as the dishwasher inventor. 1872, Jim.
Yeah. And here again, think about the vision and the foresight. This is a clear case when you have an idea and you're struggling with finding how to put the pieces together. And many times at night when you're asleep, that's when the energy comes in and gives you the answer, because we're asleep, our subconscious mind never does sleep. It's always at work. But the problem is, during the day in our conscious mind, when we're awake, we got all this mumbo jumbo up here floating around, distorting everything, and we can't, like the old saying goes, can't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
But, that's many times the way a lot of inventions come around, because knowing what you want, seeing a need, and answering the call to duty, the energy of the universe. I wish I was smart enough to explain this, but I do know and understand the energy of the universe will come to your rescue in your hour of need, and it will provide the answer for you if that is your calling in life and your direction in the pathway of life.
Right.
And can I go with next one here?
Absolutely.
Maria Beasley in 1882. She invented a thing called the life raft. How many lives has this thing saved?
Right.
My goodness gracious. Can you imagine being on a ship and it going down and there's, you're looking for something to float along with? And she was a serial inventor. She just wasn't a one and done. She invented many things. And she was already credited with the barrel hopping machine patent. Do you know what a barrel hopping machine is?
I have no clue.
It's very simple. One barrel hops over the other barrel.
Okay, folks, that's our show for today. Thank you for being with us.
That's my way of saying I don't know what it is either. But she later designed a life raft with guardrails that was foldable, and it was fireproof, because one of the things, even in modern naval forces, with all the steel, the iron, the titanium, one of the things that scares everybody on a ship is fire.
Right.
It's still, that's, like battle cruisers, when the planes come in the land, if they crash or something like, which happens occasionally, it always creates a tremendous explosion. And they've got to control those flames, because otherwise it can do a lot of damage, not to mention, the threat to life. But her design on that life raft, it had guardrails, it was fireproof, it was foldable. And the life rafts that created based on her design were used on the Titanic.
Right.
And it saved over 700 lives.
So I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just going to say, and the only problem with that was you had some men in there thinking that the Titanic was unsinkable, and they didn't have enough life rafts for everybody.
Right.
So she did her job. The men didn't do their job.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. So I just looked up what a barrel
hopping machine.
Yeah, it's actually, I believe, barrel hooping. And what it is it's the hoops that fit on the sides of a barrel. Okay, securely hooping toes to
Oh,
guide the hoops, and a combination of springs, screws, and levers.
so that's the
Mhm.
bands that go around it to hold the.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
So I looked that up, and she was from North Carolina,
Hmm.
and her husband was John Q. Beasley in
Mm-hmm.
active years 1878 to 1898.
Hmm. That's very interesting. Yeah, that
Yeah.
would be because barrels were very important. I don't know how they made barrels prior to that, because every barrel I ever saw had the bands around it to hold it together.
Well,
And
she also, this is, I'm just looking this up real quick, Jim,
sure,
if you don't
sure.
mind.
No, no,
She,
please.
in 1878, her first innovation was a foot warmer.
A foot warmer.
Yes, it uses a chamber of water that is heated either by the direct flame of heat from a lamp.
Mm,
Two pipes are used to clear the smoke generated by the lamp and steam generated in the water heating the chamber.
mm.
So this is a woman who was crazy smart, just
Oh,
crazy
yeah.
smart. And of course, the barrel hooping machine. She won her first patent for that in 1881 for the barrel hooping machine, followed by a second version of the patent, including one filed in the United Kingdom in
Mm,
1882.
mm,
And by 1912, her patent for the barrel hooping patent had been generating $20,000 in annual royalties,
mm.
which in 2021 would be the equivalent of $561,586.
Wow, I think I'm related to her. I need to get in.
Much of it from oil and sugar refineries with
Mm.
whom the invention had become popular.
Oh, yeah.
So she did five other barrel related in innovations,
Mm,
um, two barrel making machines, a machine for setting up barrels, and a process for notching and cutting the hoops.
mm.
So, of course, in the life raft, I mean,
Yeah.
this woman really, 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 really was bright.
Hmm.
Wow. She also, in 1898, was awarded a patent for means for preventing derailment of railroad cars, Jim.
Holy smokes.
Yeah. At higher train speeds were
Mm,
now attainable by the use of electric power, train tracks needed additional safeguards to reduce the possibility of derailment.
wow. Because a lot of inventors, they stay in one arena,
Yeah.
one area of expertise. But going from barrels to railroads, oh my
And foot
gosh.
warmers.
And yeah, foot warmers, because yeah, I forgot about that. Because back in the old days, I remember going on a hayride in the fall of the year back in the 50s, and they had heated up some rocks with a fire and gave us the rocks, to keep our hands warm,
Yep.
folded up. And but that was a way people used to, warm themselves up at times with rocks and stuff like that. And this lady here, she saw she had a higher calling in life.
Yeah.
She really truly did. My goodness gracious, that's just incredible.
Yeah, she had a lot to for us to
Mm,
be thankful for, and a lot of things that have everything she did was for the betterment of mankind. Every one
amen.
of these women. And
Yes.
she really took it to a higher level.
Mm. And women have had a long history throughout time. From
Oh
the
yeah.
beginning of time, they've been used instrumentally in helping make this world a better place to live.
Hmm.
And there was one story, if I may share this. This is recorded not only in the Bible but also historians. A lady by the name of Deborah was a female judge in the nation of Israel, and she had such a positive influence on that entire nation that the nation lived in peace for 40 years. And what does that say about her vision and her? We normally hear about King Solomon or when we
Hmm.
talk about men, but this lady here, she was the only female judge in a male-dominated world,
Right.
but her contribution was to lead that nation for 40 years in peace and
Right.
harmony. Wow. We can't even get 40 years of peace and harmony in this country. And we got men and women up there in Washington. Problem is, we got the wrong
Yeah.
ones up there.
Yeah.
But we're not going to go there.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a hot mess.
Yeah.
A little bit of a hot mess. But I
Yeah.
mean, these women have done incredible things. Incredible
Yes.
things. So this next one
Mhm.
is the inventor is Anna Conley,
Mhm.
and the year was 1887. And she invented an external metal staircase which acted as the first fire escape and saved lives from deadly fires.
Wow.
Moreover, her invention resulted in the modification of the New York building codes
Mm.
and required residential buildings to have a secondary means of escape for emergencies.
Mm. That's amazing, Donna, because you think all these engineers who engineered these multi-story buildings,
Mhm.
it never even dawned on them
Nope.
if there was a fire, how are the people up there going to get down, and get away from the flames?
Right.
Because the
So,
flame's going to be internal.
I owe her thanks because when we moved out, when my children were young, we moved out to this suburb in Ohio, and we had a 2-story house. And I bought a portable fire escape, and it
Mhm.
was a throw down metal ladder,
Right.
right? And 2 of the rooms for 2 of my children would lead out to the the porch cover out front, so they could literally jump down there, grab
Mhm.
the lower themselves down without real injury. But
Mhm.
the other side, one of my children's room was straight down,
Mhm.
and I went, no way, no how.
Mhm.
Nope, not doing it. So I was able to buy, of course, a portable fire escape, and we kept it right there by the window. Right?
Mhm.
There's no point in putting it up in the closet. If you need it, you need it now.
Right.
But her invention led to that. Now I'm grateful we never had to use it. We never had a
Mhm.
fire, knock on wood, but it was there in case something happened.
Yes. Yeah, because being prepared and prevention that's always the best way to go. It really is.
Absolutely.
If you see me moving around here and all that, Dixie's here at my feet and she's demanding attention. She's just, that's the price I pay, because I
Right?
didn't close the door to the studio and keep her out because she figures, well, I'm the one in charge. She's here. She wants attention. So anyway, forgive me.
Well, I've got 2 in here with me, but currently they're not up on my lap. So I'm
Mhm.
feeling pretty privileged today.
Yeah. There's a lady by the name of Letitia Geer, Geer, and she made an invention back in 1899, and her invention was the medical syringe. And medical practitioners were using syringes that required the use of both hands to administer an injection. I imagine that must have felt good, like a jackhammer, you know.
Right?
But she invented a one-handed syringe that is used by all of the medical practitioners today. And I don't know what that initial what they were using. It required both hands, but my goodness! And you imagine somebody, a nurse or a doctor, coming towards you, and they got 2 hands here, and they got this needle there, and they go, okay, now this may hurt, but it won't hurt for long. I mean, oh my goodness gracious! But a syringe is
Mhm.
it's just amazing, and it shows you again how when you see a need in life, whether it's a cause or an invention or whatever, that's your inspiration to get into action.
Well, she was a native New Yorker,
Hmm.
and I want to see if it has anything else on her because this is just, to me, it's very fascinating how these women, obviously, she was um, very into healthcare,
Oh
right?
yeah. Hmm.
Gosh darn, it doesn't say. It just says on her that she She invented it on February 12th of 1896.
Mm-hmm.
She filed for the patent,
Mm-hmm.
and it was granted in 1899. So it took her 3
Mm-hmm.
years to get that patent.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing. You know, and the next lady I like to share because our time is getting a little, well, the show's about half over. But anyway, I wanted to just, this lady here, her name is Mary Anderson. And in the early 1900s, we know that automobiles were coming on the scene. She was the lady that invented the windshield wiper
Mm-hmm.
because she was refused. Initially, she was refused by manufacturers when she tried to sell her new windshield cleaning device to them. However, it was after about 10 years after a patent expired that a similar device became standard on cars.
Right.
But Mary Anderson was quite a lady. She was an American real estate developer. She was a rancher. She was an inventor. And she when she was granted her first patent for the what she called the car window automatic device cleaner, the windshield wiper, that was in 1903. And she lived in Alabama, but her invention, think about that. She saw a simple need. Here these guys are again, they're making cars, they're putting engines and wheels in there and transmissions and all that. And when it rains, we just stick our head out the window
Right.
or around the windshield or something. But here's another clear case of a lady that had vision and saw a need. And good and well, go up there and talk to them about that windshield wiper, they probably thought she was bananas.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
isn't it interesting after the patent expired, they kind of like, hey, I guess we need to have a windshield wiper on this thing.
Right.
That's terrible. It's
Well,
terrible they did that. Go ahead.
This next one is really quite something. So in 1904, Elizabeth Maggie, she went by Lizzie, is actually the first inventor of the Monopoly game.
Mm-hmm.
She called it the landlord's game, and it was
Mm-hmm.
patented in 1904.
Mm-hmm.
Was initially designed to showcase the evils of unchecked capitalism.
Mm.
Close to 30 years later, a man patented a very similar game called Monopoly and sold it to Parker Brothers.
Mm.
So, wow.
Yeah.
In 1904, that's something.
Yeah. It really is.
And I'll be honest, I hate playing Monopoly with my husband. I hate it. I'll start out with all kinds of money and he's dead broke. And I swear not 4 minutes later, I'm like, I got to go to bed. I have a headache. He rips my rear end every time we play Monopoly.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah, some people are just lucky at games. This next lady, Stephanie Kolek, I guess you pronounce that Kwolek.
Wallach, I think.
Kwolek, okay.
Yeah.
In 1966, she invented a substance that has really saved a lot of lives.
Yes.
And she worked for DuPont. She was a researcher, and while researching for a lightweight and strong plastic for use in car tires, that was Dixie. If you heard that, she's clicking on my chair here. She discovered a product that's now known as Kevlar.
Mm-hmm.
In the military, we wore Kevlar helmets, Kevlar vests. Police officers use Kevlar and things like that. Think of all of the lives that this invention has saved. I mean, it's just amazing. The fiber that she created and found was numerous applications of, it calls it canoes, bridge cables, and frying pans. And it's found in all those different products now. And most importantly, it is credited with saving countless lives, as I said before, in the bulletproof vest. And she lived from 1923. She passed away in 2014. And she is discovered as the first of a family of synthetic fibers of exceptional strength and stiffness. And the technical name for it is polyparaphylline terephthalamide. Thalamide. I think I mispronounced all those words correctly. But her invention, her discovery, it awarded DuPont the Loveless medal for outstanding technical achievement. And, it's kind of like our good friend Don McGrath. Don worked for many companies. He has an engineering degree, and Don holds 36 U.S. patents, or he was involved in the creation of the companies he worked for, having 36 U.S. patents. And there's a lot of people, men and women like that, who have the ability to see a need and be searching for an answer and come up with a product so incredible that little did they know what they were looking to solve had a much higher calling. And in this case here, the Kevlar that she created got, immediately moved into, maybe not immediately, but it migrated into Kevlar helmets, bulletproof vests, and things of this nature. And think about all the men and women who serve in our police force and our military. And for you folks in TV land, the people who serve in your police force and your military around the world, no one wants to lose a loved one to gunfire.
No.
Especially from bad guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So we have this lady here has saved, I don't know, a multitude of lives.
Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of lives.
Yeah. And one of her quotes, she says, I don't think there's anything like saving someone's life to bring you satisfaction and happiness. And that says it all. That says it all. That's a clear standard of the reason why we focus on being a blessing to others. Because she didn't do this for, fame or fortune.
Right.
Not at all.
This next lady was quite something. So Evelyn, and her last name is pronounced Berezan. And she is the inventor of the word processor. So she is, it says here that she was a computer pioneer who emancipated many a frazzled secretary from the shackles of a typewriter nearly half a century ago by building and marketing the first computerized word processor. She died at the age of 93. In the age where computers were in their infancy and few women evolved in their development, she not only designed it in 1969, she was also the founder and president of Redactron Corporation, a tech startup on Long Island that was the first company exclusively engaged in manufacturing and selling the revolutionary machines.
Wow.
Secretaries they were 6%, constituted 6% of the American workforce then, right? So she helped us move away from the typewriters. And it's funny because, of course, we grew up with typewriters, right? And so, we go from typewriter to word processors. And that was a major, huge accomplishment. And what we could do with them.
You are absolutely correct, because you think about, the intelligence level that took, and, how much focus and concentration that would take to be able to visualize turning that into a reality. My goodness gracious, a word processor, my goodness.
Well, it says that the machines were bulky and they were slow and noisy, but they could edit, delete, cut, and paste text. And, for those of us who grew up on typewriters, I remember when, you had to use onion skin paper for your duplicate. And so when you would white out something, you would have to lift it up and separate the sheets and very carefully white out on the onion skin paper, right? Let it dry, then roll it back down
Hmm.
and then retype.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was a hot pain of the rear end.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was a hot, but modern world processors, which appear as programs on computers, long ago simplified the tasks of authors, journalists, and other writers, sometimes after misgivings over the risk of surrendering to a future of technology. But it became so efficient in offices that they killed off the need for most of the old fashioned secretarial skills she was trying to enhance.
Mm.
I'm embarrassed to tell you that I never thought of it and never entered my mind that the word
Hmm.
processor might endanger women's jobs, Ms.
Hmm.
Berzin said in an interview.
Hmm.
Uh, though she was not an ardent feminist, she said her first ad for the Redactron word processor was placed in Ms. Magazine in 1971,
Hmm.
hailing the death of the dead end secretary.
Mm. Wow.
She called she called her computer company the data secretary. It was 40 inches high and the size of a small refrigerator,
Oh
and
my goodness.
had no screen for words to trickle across. Its
Mm.
keyboard and printer was a IBM Selectronic typewriter with a
Uh-huh.
rattling print head
Oh
the
yeah.
size of a golf ball.
Hmm.
Right? The device had 13 semiconductor chips, some of
Mm.
which she designed, and programmable logic to drive its word processing functions.
Hmm. I remember back in the 80s having an IBM Selectric 3 with the round ball and all.
Oh, yeah,
I mean, that was the cat's meow. I
absolutely.
mean, you would really, you had a top notch one. In
Hmm.
fact, we were in the market one time to buy one personally, and we never could find one, or the one we found was very, very, very expensive, and we just didn't buy it for that reason.
Right.
But talking about that onion skin paper, that reminds me back in, I think it was about 1955, mid 50s anyway, there was a lady that invented a product called liquid paper.
Yes.
And I think her name was Betty Nesmith. She was the mother of Michael Nesmith. And Michael was the lead singer of a rock group in the 60s called the Monkees.
Hmm. Hmm.
And a lot of people, and really wished, because you mentioned that about the onion skin, and, I just kind of like, it brought to my mind, because liquid paper is something I think all of us have used, those of us from that era, you using typewriters and all of that, and correction, because the old days of having the white eraser where you try to rub it out, and what it does,
Tear
it
your
takes,
paper.
yes, yes, yes,
Always tear your paper.
yeah,
Or if
yeah,
it didn't tear your paper, because you'd made so dang many mistakes, it would smudge the hell out of the paper and it would look
yes,
horrible. It would
yes.
look horrible.
And you'd either have to do, if it was some type of an official document, you'd
You
either have
have
to
to
do one
do
or
it
two.
over.
You have to do it again. Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
there was a lady I never will forget. I was using liquid paper, and I said, "This stuff," I says, "I can't do it." She says, "Jim, you're not painting a barn." And she showed me how to just put a light stroke on there and let it dry. And then, if you need another light stroke, you could do it. But I just made it perfectly white again, and boom, chicky boom, you could print right over it.
Right.
And on a copied machine, if you copied it, you cannot tell the difference.
Unless it was too thick.
Yes, that was my problem.
Right. And if it was too thick and you copied it, there'd be a little dark box.
Exactly, exactly. And that was my problem. I was putting too much of a bubble on there, and then trying to
Hmm.
type through the bubble, and
And
it
probably
just,
weren't letting it dry long enough, too.
oh, that too. How guys are. We're in a hurry. Yeah, slap it on there. We're good to go. Let's go. It's a guy thing.
But
And
think about how these women,
mm,
Jim, that we've talked about, just these 10
mhm,
women, 11 when you count, the whiteout, have
mhm.
revolutionized
Oh yeah.
where we are today.
Yeah.
We're talking from the, early 1800s
Hmm.
forward.
Yeah. At a time when they didn't have, the electricity or anything like that, or
Or if they did have electricity during that time, it was only the elite who could afford it.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, it was not very common at all. And
No.
the whole thing about women are very essential in leadership. And that is so critical in today's world. Because when you think about women, how they have become educated and they've advanced in the workforce, and the way that they contribute in all areas, not only in the world of science, in the world of education, but also in the world of management and leadership.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and Donna, you and I both know great women that we personally know, and we have come in contact with that they have set a high standard, and they live by that standard.
Right.
They
Right.
really do. And
Well, we bring, as women,
mhm,
we bring a different focus and a different energy to people, to management.
yeah, mhm,
Sometimes, because of the difference in the way emotions and our brains function between men and women,
mhm,
men kind of just see, they have that tunnel vision where they see, okay, we're here and I need to
mhm,
get here to make this, and this is it. But sometimes it's the route going there that they forget, where women come in and go, okay, if we apply a little more honey, we're going to get a lot more than if
mhm.
we just go through it with a little bit of vinegar.
Oh yeah. Well, what they're finding in this day and time um, is that when it comes to women, this shows a high level of intelligence because more and more companies and organizations, they are looking to women to provide the valuable leadership qualities,
Right?
especially in the world of communication.
Yes.
Guys, we drop the ball a lot of times on communication.
Hmm.
We really do. When it comes to communicating, it's kind of like us going into a store. We go in for that one thing, we're out of there. And, we're just, a lot of times we go through the world of assumption,
Right.
assuming that everybody's in step with us, that everybody understands us. And that's just the way we're wired. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm not trying to be cruel or anything like that. I'm just being upfront. That's just the way we're wired. Um, some ladies think we ain't got enough intelligence to be any have any more wiring, but that's okay. Well, we've earned our position, ladies.
Right. But we
But
do.
mhm,
We bring a focus, and
an
if I
insight.
an insight
Hmm.
in back into the humanity
Hmm.
of what makes a company a company.
Mm.
And the company is, it doesn't matter, in my opinion, it doesn't
Hmm.
matter what the product is.
Yeah.
It's the people you have who are working as a whole and as a team.
Hmm.
And that if you treat them like Sir Walter Branson, or Sir, what's his name? Branson.
Oh, Richard Branson.
Richard Branson. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Mhm.
He says, if you, doesn't matter about the customers, because if you treat your employees as valued people
Ooh.
and give them more, then your customers will always be taken care of. He believes in training your people to be able to leave your company that you've trained them so well.
Hmm.
But because you have trained them so well
Hmm.
and you treat them so good,
Hmm.
they're not going to want to leave.
He's right. And
And
this is
he
a
is
guy,
absolutely right.
and Richard Branson is known for a guy that suffers from dyslexia. Think
Oh,
about
he's,
the insight of that.
yeah, yeah. In fact, he quit school.
Yeah. Yeah, he sure
He
did.
quit school. And his folks said, okay, the only way we'll let you quit school is if you promise to go after what you believe you can
Mm.
achieve.
Yeah,
And
he
he looked
did.
at them and said, I give you my solemn word.
Oh, that's powerful. That's
Hmm.
commitment. That's
Right?
what it takes is commitment.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And companies and organizations around the world, even in like India and Pakistan, and I'm not picking on any particular country. I'm using them as an example, but even there, companies and organizations are starting to understand and realize the value that women leadership brings, and they realize that their communication skills. This is one of the soft skills that women can use that they have, and it is one of the things that helps bolster the professional emotional intelligence
Mhm.
of an organization. Now, let's think about that emotional intelligence. Intelligence is we understand. Everybody's got to understand what the mission is, what we got to offer, yada, 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 right down. But the emotion behind it, that's
Right.
where the energy comes from. And
Mhm.
ladies have that unique ability with their communication skills to be able to bridge that gap. That is huge.
We also are able to see on an emotional level
Mhm.
where men sometimes just plow right over it and don't see it is somebody if if somebody seems to be off, if somebody seems to be having a rough time just
Mhm.
by their demeanor,
Yeah.
right? That so somebody walks in and you're having a whatever a meeting, your group meeting, and you notice Jane in less than 5 minutes isn't acting like normal Jane. Whereas men sometimes go, yeah, whatever, I don't see anything.
Yeah.
And that is the soft skill we're talking about. One of
Yeah.
them, just one of them.
Yeah. General George Patton. He was one of the greatest generals in the history of the United States. But he really received a lot of flack. And this goes right into what Donna is saying there. He received a lot of flack and a lot of, shocked disbelief because he walked into a hospital and he was visiting, soldiers had been wounded and injured in combat and all that. And he saw this guy laying there. He didn't have any injuries. And he looked at him and he says, What are you? Why are you here? He says, I'm suffering from battle fatigue. And we all understand that, especially us, combat veterans. I served in Vietnam and all. But anyway, Patton slapped him and says, "Get up out of that bed. There's people out there on the battlefield that's in worse shape than you, and they're continuing to carry on." I mean, he was not known for his compassion.
Right,
He was a brilliant general, but he would not be a good candidate for a school counselor.
right, right.
I'm not picking on him or anything like that, but that actually happened. He slapped the guy and says, "Get out of that bed." It just
Hmm.
because he did not understand it.
Right,
He didn't even want to understand. He didn't even care for that because his mission was something much different. And but yeah, that's a good example of how men we have the old saying, "I'll suck it up, go on."
right.
And I
And
remember I just going to say, I remember one time hearing a sergeant major listen to this guy, and he says, and the sergeant major says, "Are you telling me this because you think I'm interested? Or are you telling me this because you think I care? Because either way, you're wrong." And that's just the way he was wired,
right,
And
right,
you have to accept that's why around the world, men especially are starting to understand and see the bright light that women can bring to an organization. That
right.
emotional intelligence, oh my goodness gracious, we see it on the football field. You see the emotions start to shift from one team to the other, and what happens? They come alive like, wow, where you guys been the last 3 quarters,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, with that, I would like to say to all the women out there, know your value and
Hmm.
do not devalue yourself and
Amen.
do not let anybody else devalue you. So when it
Amen.
comes time for your yearly raise or you're going in to negotiate a salary for a new position, do not be afraid to ask for your worth.
That's right. That's right.
Don't be afraid.
Hmm. And Donna, our time is gone. I hate to
It
say it, but
is.
I've been distracted with Dixie over here, and she's a Korat, Korat, and looking up, she actually their tendency, they're from Thailand and they're similar to the Siamese, but she likes to do household management. And when I shared that with Evelyn, she started cracking up because Dixie, if there's things on the bar, that she doesn't like, she will move them off on the floor. She broke a plate the other night. And but that's part of my distraction here. That's a nice distraction. But sincerely, as we were talking about today with women knowing your value, and love yourself enough to understand that you are worthy to be loved, you deserve to be loved, you're entitled to be loved. So love yourself first. You can embrace that. Nobody can stop you from that.
And give
And
yourself grace.
and love yourself enough when you run into these yahoos who do not understand or appreciate you. Love them enough to forgive them and let them go. Well, we're going to be back Monday with another great show and about entrepreneurs, and we're going to be covering some great information there. And on behalf of Donna and myself, thank you so much for being with us today. And ladies, thank you for being a big part and an important part of our lives. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.